all happy, all good with the world, and then the video comes out. A fan, and who knows who actually is behind it. Someone who has a lot of analytical ability, by the way,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
they AI'd the voice, but as far as the actual movement
Content.
and things like that and content was very analytical. It basically showed everything that Mustafa Asal did wrong during that tournament, and it has set the squash internet ablaze.
Yeah.
Understanding that there's issues for sure, but it got people so upset. People are calling for him to be banned again, not play in the World Championships, get banned from the tour. We are back to the 2 years ago, 2022, I believe it was, Mustafa Asal incidences and the issues, and people are absolutely melting down about it. I just interested to get your take. I know you saw the video. We've been communicating about it.
I saw the video. I'm of a similar opinion to yourself, in as much as I'm so curious to find out, if we'll ever get to find out, who has compiled the video. The attention to the details, for me, would lead you to believe that the person has to have inside knowledge and played the game to a certain level to know of the subtleties and the intricacies that we're looking for within that video. I feel so sad for Mustafa, really, because the penny just isn't dropping with him, and this is casting another huge cloud over his game, because how can you ignore some of the things that are being highlighted within that video? It's now becoming so apparent. I would go back to the Tournament of Champions. I had a bit of a catch up with Tariq Momin, who played Mustafa, I think, in the quarters of that final. I think we found something like 23 incidents where Mustafa was putting his left hand into the back and leaning into Tariq Momin 23 times within one match. And Mustafa wasn't being penalised for it. He's been told numerous times of specific areas of his game that he needs to tidy up, and it's just not resonating with him. I don't know where James Willstrop is with all of this, because we started to see a bit of an improvement and a bit of a difference and a bit of a change in Mustafa's movement and his attitude and his behaviour on the court. I know that James had worked tirelessly trying to improve those specific areas. Even James himself was aware that this was a huge hurdle for him to overcome, because these movements and these habits were ingrained in Mustafa from a very young age. When the pressure gets a little bit too much for Mustafa and he goes back into the default mode, that's when the trailing leg comes out, that's when the hand comes out, and some of these, what you can only call blatant cheating moves, really start to rear their ugly heads. And it's all been highlighted in this video. Where they go from here, I really don't know. I just think it's just devastating for the Asal case, because I've said this before, he's such a bloody good squash player. He doesn't need to play and behave in this manner. And I can only imagine what it's like for the fellow players out there, your Farags and your Coles and your Tariks and your people. These moves, Bill, when you watch them back, they are so subtle that the central referee can't even spot them in real time. And it's only with the luxury of slow-mo replays and the video referee that they're starting to see some of the situations that are taking place, because Mustafa will take up a position in the court which abides by the rules and the laws of the game, but you can see the players are being forced to take a certain line, or they're having to adapt and adjust their movements in a certain way. So when they do approach the ball, they're slightly off balance, or they're out of their normal, natural movement patterns. And to have to go through that time after time, from a player's perspective, must be so frustrating, and create such an anxiety and a stress for you as a player, because it puts so much pressure then on your own shot that if you play a certain ball that's loose or in a certain area, you know that you're going to get blocked out, or you know that there's going to be a situation that you're going to have to try and overcome.
So two things on this, and not to interrupt you, but isn't this a PSA issue, not a Mustafa Asal issue? Don't the refs need to call this? Aren't the refs having meetings, watching these slow motion replays, seeing these, and every time like a Paul Call or a Farag turns around when something happens or he gets knocked off bounds, can't they just go to the video referee and then warn conduct, take the measures you need to take? Because in the end, as long as Asal's getting away with it, why would he stop? You're
Yeah,
winning.
because then you've got to question the integrity of the player. You can't point the finger at the referees, Bill. They've got so much to deal with already. And yes, I think there has been over recent months or the last year, 18 months, a bit of confusion as to exactly how they're supposed to handle and deal with the Mustafa case, if you like. But ultimately, all of these problems would be resolved if Mustafa tidied up his own game. They wouldn't have to deal with all of this. And this to me is not down to the referees at all. Can you blame PSA? PSA are going to certainly have to act on what has come out of this last event. You've got the kung fu kick into the ribs or into the belly of Farag. You've got the trailing leg, and you can see these movements, Bill, as well as a player. When you move your trailing leg into a certain position on the court, you're well aware of whether you're trying to create a path or block a path as a player. And the onus for me has got to be solely put onto Mustafa. And I don't know how he's going to overcome this. He's the only person right now I feel can solve this problem.
When Mustafa does something like, and again, I'm having a problem with it because you can't tell me he just started doing it on Alguna. And because a fan sends a video highlighting these, is that really the PSA going to take action on a fan video or whomever it is? I'm sure the PSA knows who it is, by the way. I'm assuming anyways. So when Mustafa, a ball is on, just say on the right-hand side coming down the wall, and not quite the wall, Mustafa stretches, lunges, keeps his 1 foot on the tee, though. You see him do that all the time. He has an amazing reach for somebody.
Yeah.
Like he's a big boy.
Yeah.
And he returns it, and his leg is still right on the tee, one of his legs. And as he hits it, the player is going after it, trips over that leg. Is that on Mustafa's, or is that on the player?
100%.
Why?
100%.
He's controlling the tee.
You're not allowed to control the tee, Bill. If you read the rules, a player, after striking the ball, has to provide a clear path and access for the opponent through to the ball. So by leaving a trailing leg there, that leaves an obstacle in the line of the oncoming player.
But he's not necessarily leaving it there, though. He's stretching it, and he's stretching to the ball, and the reaction is so quick.
All the time Mustafa is in motion and in the process of playing his shot, he can leave that leg there as long as he possibly wants.
Right.
However, the second he's played that ball, he has to then provide a clear path for the opponent through to the ball. And this is where he's not abiding by the rules.
After this video came out, I went back and watched a lot of the match to see. It also seems that, and I understand now what you're saying, that as long as Mustafa is still playing the ball, he could have his legs where he wants to.
He can do what he wants, all the time.
Is it possible that Mustafa he's so good, right? He's such a better player than a lot of the players out there. Is it possible that these players are anticipating shots because they know they probably can't get into the proper position for a great shot that Mustafa hits, and they're cutting across Mustafa's leg before the shot is played because they're anticipating, because it's the only way they could get back into the point?
No.
Are they trying to cut corners?
No, they're not trying to. Listen, as a player, you're taught from a young age to try to get onto the ball as early as you possibly can. So yes, you can try to anticipate, and it's not a case of guessing, because you're going to be made a fool of if you do just commit your movement in one particular direction. The ball goes the opposite way, but you've run into the trailing leg of Mustafa. You're going to look like a bit of an idiot. So no, it's not as simple as that. Certain players may be clever where they will exaggerate the amount of contact that there is with the player, but you still can't hide the fact that as soon as Mustafa has played the ball, and as a player, once you see a follow through or you see where the ball has gone off of the racket, you can read the ball and then start to move into that next shot. That is when, at that stage, that Mustafa has to get himself out of the way and make himself as small as possible to allow you a clear path. This is not a case of the players necessarily just running into Mustafa and looking to create the interference. The referees are good enough to spot that. They will sense, depending on where the ball lands and depending on the direction in which a player sets off, they can tell, okay, the ball's gone over there, but you're running into Mustafa, therefore you were going nowhere near the ball, i.e. no let. So it's not a case of, this is not, to me, about the incoming player. This situation, and I don't like going on about it because I love Mustafa and I love watching him play. We need him in the game, and he's a fantastic squash player, and on his day, you'd have to say the best player in the world, bar Ali Farag. Those two are the best two players in the world. So we do need him. We want to watch him play. I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, but he's got to address this problem. He really does need to get to the root cause of what's happening here. And if he doesn't, I just feel like it's going to be the inevitable. Again, it's another ban, and it will just keep happening because it's not being solved.
So where were these people? Where was all of this 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago? Because I'm sure he didn't just start doing the trailing leg again in Alguna.
These incidents again they're just been highlighted again, Bill. These are issues that players have had to deal with him, but again, he's always under the microscope, isn't he, Mustafa Asal?
Sure.
It's
and more so now.
Yeah, I understand that, and I agree with you. But at the end of the day, it hasn't got any better. If it's not the grabbing of the hand or the following through, it's the leaving of the trail leg or the pushing of the left hand into the back. They will continue to find flaws and faults in Mustafa until he stops doing it. Whether you like it or not, as great of a player as he is, right now, he's not playing. It's not fair. It's not a fair fight out on the court at the moment for the opponents.
Squash is a professional sport. The goal is to win. Shouldn't Mustafa Asal and any player do what you need to do to win? And if you get called on it, you get called on it and you get penalized accordingly. But until then, you do what you need to do to win.
Again, this comes down to you as a player, Bill, okay? Because the risk that you run is Mustafa Asal becoming a very successful player, all right? World Championships, World Finals, World number one, whatever it was. But the least respected, this then comes down to your integrity and your own kind of self-value and your self-worth and your respect for the sport, if you like. Do you want to have that win at all cost mentality? What would you rather be known as? A great champion, a Roger Federer, for example, okay? Great player, won everything, but everything done in the right manner. Or somebody like a Novak Djokovic, who is not particularly well liked just because of his attitude and his demeanour. And again, for me personally, I would rather achieve less but do it in the right, respectful way and the correct way, rather than win more, but knowing I've done it in the wrong manner, if that makes sense. In the wrong.
But it's unless, yes, I understand that completely. So I'm trying to think of, and here's the example I'll throw out there: Greg Gaultier. So Greg Gaultier is revered right now in squash, right? Like,
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, we could be saying the same thing about Greg Gaultier. He's taking advantage of the rules. He's cheating a bit. He's blocking the Long John Silver thing at Grand Central Station. Now that's looked back as, aha, that's Greg Gaultier. What a character of the sport. One of our all-time greats. So 10 years, 20 years from now, we could be looking back at Mustafa Asal and just looking at the record book and saying, wow, look what he achieved. And then there'd be people saying, oh yeah, but he blocked, but he did this. But still, in the end, you still revere him as as all-time great player.
It's changed. Gregory Gaultier may not have got away with then what, or would not get away with now what he got away with back then. As far as the Long John Silver, he basically hoodwinked Mustafa Asal. Now, sorry, Mohamed El Shabaghi. What Gregory Gaultier did within that match was nothing illegal. He was in between points. He was okay, maybe taking a little bit of extra time, possibly, but he was faking it. It was his. He wasn't doing anything necessarily to Mohammed that was what you could call cheating. He didn't cheat.
Yeah.
He wasn't blocking per se. He wasn't holding on to the hand of Mohamed El Shabaghi. He wasn't pushing him out of the way or bending the rules or breaking the rules, so to speak. However, the issue that the players have got right now is what Mustafa's doing out there on the court at the moment. You could say he is breaking the rules because he's not allowing a clear path. You're not allowed to push your opponents into the ball. You're certainly not allowed to kick your leg backwards and some of those kind of things. So they're different scenarios. I don't think you can compare the Greg Gaultier situation to Mustafa's.
No, it's a very fair point you make. My overall take on this is until the referees start calling it on him and disciplining him accordingly, it's not. He's just going to keep doing it, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah,
and it's a professional sports.
Yeah,
goal is to win.
I understand that, but then it's also at what costs. If you have no scruples, or if you're quite happy winning, and doing it in a disrespectful manner. James
Mm-hmm.
Willstrop, I know 100% would not be happy with that. And I also feel that what is more important, Bill, with regards to the refereeing, just to touch on the refereeing situation, I
Mm-hmm.
feel because some of these subtleties are taking place so quickly and so subtly, the more important position will be the video referee position. The central
Sure.
referee is under so much pressure as it is. What they
Sure.
need is a watertight VR who has the luxury of watching these things back and a little bit more time to reflect and make a decision, to
Mm-hmm.
really stand shoulder to shoulder with the central referee and collectively bring some of these circumstances to light and have them dealt with at that time. And then rest assured, if the referees come down hard on Mustafa early on, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to adapt and change his game accordingly. I hope he does, because without him, the game it'll be sorely missed. It'll be sorely missed.
Do you want to hear my conspircy theory
I'd love to hear
on
it.
that? And this is based on tips I've been given by people. I won't mention any names, and then some of my own magic thrown in there.
Okay, was this on the beach in Florida?
No, because this didn't happen until after the beach.
Okay.
This didn't happen until after the
Okay.
beach. So my conspiracy theory is somewhat learned, so it's not just completely out of play. My conspiracy theory is that Mustafa Asal has let it be known that he will not represent Egypt in the Olympics.
Okay.
Because of that, the Egyptian Federation is trying to get ahead of that by putting out this propaganda. What do you think of that theory?
I've listened with anything's possible, Bill. Nothing's too far-fetched at this stage.
I like the theory that the Egyptian Federation is behind it. We won't mention any names. But that's my conspiracy theory. All right. That was 33 minutes. I really thought that segment was going to be quicker.
And no mention of Chris Dittmar. It's unbelievable.
Because I know you're anxious because you've been up against it, as you said. You're up against it, or you've been up against it for a few months. So I hate to keep you away. We'll start with the biggest story in squash still. I love Mustafa Asal. He is the best thing for podcasts in the history of squash.
Agreed.
We get more downloads about these episodes about him. So if we could get Mustafa Asal to become American and act poorly in a British Junior Open, we would probably set a record for most podcast downloads.
All the box. Bill, not just podcasts need him, the game needs him. He's been a massive breath of fresh air over the last 3 years. Let's not make any mistake about that. He's box office, compelling viewing, a bit like Tiger Woods, what he brought to the PGA Tour. Everybody just wants to see and watch Mustafa and what he does. And unfortunately, it's not always within the rules, and there are a lot of eyes and a lot of judgment is made on him for various different reasons. But we certainly need him in the game, and as you and I have alluded to, we're both massive fans.
I got so much feedback from this episode, which is awesome. Thank you for listening, for everyone who listens, because I got so much feedback, and it's so funny. People hear what they want to hear, because the feedback was, I can't believe PJ defended Mustafa. Then I'd get, I can't believe PJ threw Mustafa under the bus and said everything was his fault.
I've been reading some of the comments on some of the forums on some of the social media outlets, Bill, and it's gone as far as me actually flat out accusing Mustafa of cheating and all sorts. As these keyboard warriors on social media, they have this select hearing and will tune in, pick fault and find holes in anything that they want, turn it on its head and portray it in a certain manner, which 9 times out of 10 is extremely inaccurate. But
as long as they listen.
Correct. Any news is, any publicity is good publicity, Bill.
Exactly. There are rumors are getting more widespread about who is behind this video. If you're listening to this, and they did go on Facebook, and the account that posted it, according to Reddit anyways, commented on my Facebook page about our episode. But then it looks like their account got deleted because I can't find them anymore. So if Quash Bad Squash or whatever your account name is, if you are listening to the show, shoot me DM me and come on the show. We'll do like the FBI thing where we make your voice.
We can just
sound
cover anonymous picture in the top right hand corner.
Wah, 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 and disguise the voice like an undercover agent or something like that. Want to get your side of the story, so please reach out and come on.
It's somebody within the game, Bill. It's somebody who knows a lot about the game, that's for sure. We've already dived into the video that came out. This person definitely has squash knowledge.
So the hottest rumor, PJ, is that Squash Site is behind it, and the woman who runs Squash Site is behind it. Like,
was it not Mustafa's father as well? He obviously works within the police force in Egypt, I think, and I think he's pretty adamant that he knows who it is, and
yeah,
is exactly who you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah, and the only reason I would think it's not because their websites are so bad. Their innovative double hamburger menu on their mobile site is quite ingenious, and their Egyptian website is so bad. The Egyptian website. So the fact that they could actually, I think, whether they're not that they posted it on behalf of someone, that's possible. But there's no way that the Squash Site woman put that together. There's no chance at all. So
No.
she's exonerated by her lack of ability to do anything on a computer. Is what I'm going to say.
Hopefully, one day we'll find out, and we'll have the big reveal, Bill.
Our friend Barry Gibbs, who gave us a great shout out on his podcast, he had Mustafa Asal on this.
Great. To be fair to Barry, he's had pretty much everybody on the podcast, and he does a great job. And I don't know what episode he's up to now. I've lost count personally, but always does a great job. I've been on there a couple of times myself. But yeah, to the fact that he's got Mustafa on is kudos to him. Not many people would be fortunate enough to have him on their podcast.
So you could listen to it, and I suggest that everyone go listen to it because it's nice always to hear things from the horse's mouth. But the one thing that stood out to me, Mustafa says he has not seen the video. Do you think that's possible?
I don't think that's possible. No.
No.
I think somebody would have sent it to him, forwarded it onto him, even if he didn't go onto Facebook itself. He would have seen the clip without a shadow of a doubt.
He was pretty adamant that he didn't, which was pretty funny. Then he went and described it in detail.
Yeah. If he hasn't seen it, then rest assured James Willstrop would have seen it, and some of those points would definitely have been addressed. Yeah.
He's like Mustafa at his age. So have you been seeing the Bill Belichick interview that's been going around?
No.
Do you know who Bill Belichick is?
Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
But we'll see what comes of us all. Nothing. The PSA said they didn't ask to have it taken down. The PSA has really not made any comment on it. I doubt anything is going to come from it because I think if it was, it would have happened by now. We may see, maybe for dangerous play or something, may see him get fined, possibly for this when the penalties come down. But I can't see anything more than that happening at this point.
I think it's hard because I'm not sure that PSA can act on the strength of the videos that have been sent in. I feel that this may have been an issue that would have had to have been dealt with immediately in the time of the incident. So literally straight after the tournament, obviously in the situation where there was the leg kick from Mustafa, the central referee and the video referee, neither one of them actually saw that. So I don't think it would be right for the PSA to then go back and act on that evidence that's been sent in later on. I'm not sure if that is even allowed. I don't understand the laws in that respect.
Right. Do you know what the PSA, what the standard operating procedure is after an event? Do the referees gather like after each day of play or stuff?
I don't know the exact formula, Bill, but as far as I know, that at the end of the tournament, all of the conduct strokes, the conduct warnings, everything will be totted up and presented then to whether it's Roy Gingell or Lee Drew or Jason Foster, Andrea Santamaria maybe, whoever the kind of the panel are. And then decisions will be made from there. At what stage they then will send their incidents through to the PSA to pass judgment, to then go to an independent panel, and depending on the severity of the issue. But there will be a few different stages that will have to take place, again, depending on exactly what happens at that particular tournament.
So needless to say, we would assume that they had seen everything before that video came out.
Yes, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and really nothing was mentioned.
Nothing came of it at the time. PSA in their defence, within reason, have been pretty good at highlighting any situations. With the Elias racket breaking, there was another incident, and then Mustafa's sweeping of the leg of Cole. All of those situations got dealt with pretty much immediately. The information was submitted early, and a lot earlier than this video has come out after the event of what happened in El Gouna.